So I was maxed out over 3 Gs the entire pool. That entire wheelie, from the moment the wheels were up, it never dipped below 3 Gs. So they just had to rescale the G-force graph to get it. The 60 to 130 was a 168. I feel like it's being the slingshot. I don't mean the object in the slingshot, this feeling of elasticity of just being pushed. It's a great feeling.
My name's Tony Palo. I'm here with T1 Race Development. We're at World Cup Finals 2019. We've got 5 GTRs here, and we've got one S2000, the oddball. We've got 4 cars in the Street Fighter class, and then we've got George's car in the Warrior versus Trace Quattro class. George's is one of the more exciting ones. It's a 3.8 liter engine. We've got our Manley pistons in it, GRP rods, Bryant crank. It's still a factory cast block. At other events, it's a stock location class, so the turbos remain in the frame rails. So it kind of limits how big a turbo we can go. It has Precision 76, 75 Gen 2 turbos, all Motec electronics. We've done a lot to get the weight out of this car. We've got it down to about 3,250 pounds with him in it. So it's quite a bit lighter than any other cars we have. We went 7.0 with it about a year ago, and we've been kind of chasing that since. So we've got a handful of 7.0 and 7.1 passes. Hoping we can get all the stars to the line and get a 6.9 this weekend. This car makes 2280 was the most we made with it on the dyno, and that was right about 60 pounds of boost. Normally on the track, especially with good air, we'll see 65, sometimes a little more than that. This weekend, it's down to about 55. We're not really sure why. We haven't found any boost leaks or wastegate issues. I think we might have a damaged turbine wheel, but we're gonna run with it, see what it does, and make the best of it. We've got the Motec M1 plug-and-play ECU kit on here. We've also got some pretty neat stuff going on. We've got a Motec power distribution module. We've got a Motec dash. We've got a steering wheel with a bunch of CAN controls on it. It's kind of neat. All the nitrous is going through the PDM. We've got front and rear line locks. He just puts it in burnout mode. It activates the front line lock when he's racing, activates both, so he leaves off a button rather than leaving off the brake pedal. this is kind of one of our test beds to try all the new things. And so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we learn on it, and that trickles down into all the rest of the cars. And so everybody wins, but sometimes it's a longer road that way. So we run this car on methanol, just VP M1. We've got our mechanical fuel pump kit, which is a cable-driven fuel pump. It puts the mechanical fuel pump in back by the fuel cell, so it's gravity fed. There's no priming pump or anything like that. It fires right up as if it was an electric pump. It's got 12 ID 2000 injectors. We run about 115 PSI fuel pressure, and we're about 85% duty cycle. So we're almost to the point of needing more, but until we go with bigger turbos, we're not going to need to deal with that. So it all fits the bill right now. So the drivetrain has a lot of upgrades. It's a Shep Stage 6 trans. It's got drive shaft shop axles, yaw power suspension. It's got the AK Motorsports front and rear subframes, all SPL suspension arms. We run a custom air-to-water intercooler on this. It's got 4 Garrett 1,000 horsepower air-to-water cores, electric pump. This is the ice tank here. Regardless of ambient temperature, we'll keep air temperatures no more than about 110 degrees going at the end of the track. The cylinder head on this, we run Tomei 282 cams, all Faria valve train. It's our CNC cylinder head package, brilliant seats. It's got all the goodies in it, but surprisingly, we don't have to do a lot of crazy stuff on these. The off-the-shelf components work really good. This engine sees about 10,500 RPM. So our quickest ET with this car is 701, and the highest, that was at 701 was 209, I believe, and then it's gone to 709 at 211. I don't think we're gonna go faster than the 211 with the boost that we're down, but I think if we get the short track down, I think we can get a 690 out of it. So when we ran the 7.0, we were running a standard 28-10-5 tire. Since then, we've started playing with the bigger tire, and we've kind of been chasing it since then. We've gone to 7.0 and a 7.1 since then, but we haven't improved our short track, and we've hurt the consistency of the short track with the bigger tire. So we just put a 28 back on it. We have a solid program that we know works well there. So hopefully that'll get the consistency back and we can finish dialing in the rest of the run. So this car being in the stock location class, we're limited to turbos that can fit inside the frame rails. Compressor wise, we can fit a 76 or so compressor. We're pretty limited on turbine size. The next class up, like the ETS car where the turbos are up front, you have no size limitations. So you can go as big as you want in turbo. At the end of the day, the turbo is what's providing the airflow. So if you have more turbo, you can make more power, period. The next thing for these is to make more power. Turbo technology is always improving, so that's going to get a little better, but we're still going to be very limited compared to if the turbos are up front. So, you know, we'll keep going with technology there, and then probably start putting some pretty big nitrous on it if we can't get where we need to go otherwise. The 60 to 130 on this car is 1.76 seconds. From a launch, it'll hit almost 3 Gs. All the way out to the 130, it's still over 2 Gs. So it's fast. 0 to 60 is another time that you hear and see often. 0 to 60 on this is 1.4 seconds. And then 0 to 130 is 3.3 seconds. So there's a lot happening in a real short time.
My name is George Dodworth. I'm here at World Cup Finals. We're in the last day of competition. Just up will be the eliminations. I'm here with the Night Fury, which is a 2009 GTR, which I eagerly bought as a pre-order and swore I would leave this car completely stock. I was going to keep it as a collector's item, and I haven't touched a bolt, I swear. I've had a good time so far through qualifying. In my usual way, I've not put together a full pass yet. We've had some pretty interesting moments. The best, which was actually my greatest, happiest car moment ever, was a power wheelie from basically off the line till clear out past the 330, which was indescribable. It was the best feeling, happiest car moment of my life, watching just blue sky come up. I'm a pilot, so I think I felt right at home because I visually had lost the horizon, but I had other clues to know I was still going straight, and it felt really amazing, so I just kept into that. In the data logs, we saw it was maxed out over 3 Gs, the entire pool. So I don't know how to describe that, but it is just amazing. So if nothing else happens down here, that alone has made this whole event worthwhile. The other big accomplishment for me personally is I'm traditionally not a guy that can 60-foot a car well. We've been fighting different tire setups here. We tried a 29.5 for over a year. We really thought that'd be the secret to making a car that's more versatile from track to track, good prep, bad prep. You know, GTRs, we have this, it's sort of known that we like a special prep, and we were trying to make a more versatile track weapon. Let's just say that didn't work out. We went back to the 28s, and on the first hit, that's when that wheelie happened. Unfortunately, there was a throttle body fault. That's what stopped it short. That wasn't me, but it came down real nice and gentle. The next trip out, I'm not a 60-foot guy, but the next trip out, it pulled a 1.16 60-foot. Another just amazing feeling. Unfortunately, it was a little too juicy for me. I'll probably look back in hindsight and say maybe that was one I could have driven through, but it was not feeling that way. I felt the left lane was just coming up too fast. I would say with this car, you make a suggestion. If it's heading in the wrong direction, kind of get aggressive at first, but then you just maintain a suggestion. Like, I'd like you to go over there. If it doesn't respond, you have to let out. It'll just trend in a bad direction. If it's, for example, heading left, but the trend of heading left is slowing, that's one you'll hold on to. So when you see us make these big arcs, we can handle those. Those are all right. But unfortunately, a 116, and I had to shut it down. So far, two really cool moments with the car, but I'm sort of a patchwork of a collection of pieces of the track. So now, for the first time, I have a 60-foot. The 61 to 130 has been really strong. This car has typically been really strong in the back half because of its weight. It's a low power car, being stock location, low power. I'm just waiting for that day to stitch all three together. So a really cool experience I had last year was with the Draggy. After our pass last year, I think that was a 708 pass, we noticed the G-force was just buried the whole time. And we were really pleased to learn that the data was in the system. They just had to rescale the G-force graph to get it. So I'm happy to again report they're gonna have to rescale that data again, because we clipped 3G, that entire wheelie, from the moment the wheels were up. It never dipped below 3G. So I don't know the peak G, I suspect it was around 3.5, but it maintained in excess of 3G the entire time. And I'll be really eager to see them rescale that to 4, see where those little peaks hit. I think that's as far as I'm gonna go, just for the record. I don't think this car is ever gonna pull over 4 Gs, but maybe you'll come back and find me in a couple years and have that conversation again. But speaking of that, even though I had to stop both of those runs, the power during those sections in that mid-track, on my wheelie pool, I didn't have a great 60-foot. Despite that, the 60 to 130 was a 168, which is a new personal best for me. On the metric side, the 100 to 200 kilometer was a 144, which I don't know how to translate that into sensation, but it's the best feeling. And the other was in metric. The 0 to 200 kilometers per hour was a 3.0 flat. I feel like it's being the slingshot. I don't mean the object in the slingshot, this feeling of elasticity of just being pushed. It's a great feeling. Despite my struggles with this event to put together a pass, it's really made up for it. I was asked yesterday by another competitor, they know I'm a pilot, how to compare flying versus driving this. And just for the record, flying is exceptionally easier than this. I think anybody could fly a plane. I don't mean to make that comparison. This thing is just, it's a challenging thing for me to make a straight pass. When it goes straight, it goes straight. The days it doesn't, goes every other direction. To compare acceleration is not even fair. We see these races where they set up a car versus a jet. Would not be fair. The jet would still be spooling up. Growing up, we were not the wealthy kids in school. We were probably, I think, in the bottom 3 of income. I was blessed to have an uncle that's just a car enthusiast, restoring Model A's, Model T's. Fortunately, I had one muscle car in there, this great 60s Mopar. And just shadowing him my whole life growing up, from bodywork to watching him build engines and every manner of self-car construction and repair inspired me. What transformed me personally, put me on my own trajectory, was I had my first ride in a Mazda RX-7, it would have been in 1986. My first rotary, and when you go from riding around in the back of a Volkswagen Beetle, you know about Beetles, the floors rust out, the heater boxes rust and they don't work, and that's my experience of cars. And then I rode in a brand new RX-7. I had to know, I've always been a nerd, I had to know how did this thing work. The owner of the car couldn't explain that to me, and that set me on a mission to learn everything about that car, and I decided that's the car I wanted. So when I turned 18 and could finally sign my own loan, I bought a used RX-7 and immediately was going to the track and giving me these wonderful 16-second passes. And as a naturally aspirated car, I did everything you could do within the realm of a grass-cutting, triple job working kid to put all the money into the car to go to maybe a 15-second naturally aspirated. And then I had another fantastic opportunity to buy a complete 13V turbo from a gentleman named Dave Fong from California. It was quite famous at the time in rotary racing, and I bought his complete engine with an Electromotive Tech 2, and that got me into the 13s and then ultimately to the 12s.
Way to go. Nice to see that. I can't wait to see a car with paint. Nice bearing kit on it. Nice wing action. Sunroof. That thing's gonna be nice when it's not. That's the nice thing about having something like this.
Spent years chasing 11s, and sadly that car never made it into the 11s, but I did start a rotary shop called 7 Speed and had a wonderful partner, Mike Wheelie, and we built rotaries all through the 90s into the early 2000s. So in the FD platform, I saw the first 11s, and for me, my first 10, I mentioned earlier I would never modify this. But when this was stock, I took it to the track and saw my first 10.
Well, this is the one that I just
Look at that thing down the brain. It flies, man. How about a 10, 69, 130?
That potential amazed me. You know, my 12-second car I ruined. I gutted it. It had a fuel pump that was louder than many of these cars idling, undrivable with a non-downshiftable sequential transmission with a vertical gate. And here is a car that could run a 10 with satellite radio and heated seats, and once you put an access port in and then a downpipe, and it's that incrementally somehow you end up here. I made a decision to change the turbos, and that got me to my first 9, which actually happened right here at MIR. I was alone, it was night, last pass of the night. I was ready to give up, and let's say that's why my voice always sounds a little hoarse now, because I was screaming so loud. I was so happy to run a 9. I think that was in 2011. Continue that battle or journey, take your pick of which it is. Another turbo change, first dates, Cecil County. That was another big day for me. In the flat 8.0 range 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, which is really unbelievable to think. And the reason I remember is because poor Christine was in labor with our son, and I think I was like, one more pass, honey, I got this. And we made it to the delivery center with 15 minutes to spare, and 15 minutes later we had our little boy. That first 7 came the next spring. Not knowing about this whole thing of stock location. I just wanted to go faster, and when it was announced that was a stock location record, I wasn't after a record, I was just after a better time. But that sort of locked me on a path now. I feel committed to that path, and that's why I've stuck with it. I wanted to see stock location, stock block, cast block. This is still a stock cast Nissan block, 3.8 liter, skinny tire. I wanted to make all those check boxes just because I think it can happen. I think as a platform we overshoot, we try everything, we throw everything at a car to get a better time. Then the guys that are waiting just a little bit further behind, they're the smart ones. They see what works, it doesn't work. And I think you're gonna see stock location cars, probably with full interiors and glass and headlights, and I think you're gonna see that 6 happen with a lot less done. So I sort of penalized myself by taking a more difficult route, and I want to see that 6 happen here. It's really tempting to sell out when you see Ozier with this amazing pass, a 680, 3.8, cast block, skinny tires. He just took a bunch of those check boxes away and then proved something really, really big to the world. So the only thing I have hanging on is stock location for the heck of it at this point, but it really is a limitation. We can't always make the power. This is a 76-75. The guys making the passes now are a 76-85, and that's a tremendous difference. So if the air's not perfect, maybe we get the 60 foot, but we don't make the power. Maybe the day we're making the power's too soon, we don't make the 60 foot. So it's a journey, but to go from 16 seconds to 7.0s and 7.0s and 7.0s for a year, it's frustrating at times. If it comes, it's gonna be, all of that will make it worth it. I don't feel like this is my car. I feel like somehow I become lucky enough to be the guy that gets to drive this car. I made some bad decisions in choosing what I thought having a shop close to you was better than having the best shop. That went very poorly for me, and I was frankly ready to give up on this car. Shep actually demanded I take this car to Tony, and it was a transformation for me. I went from a car that I really fought and struggled with and I didn't enjoy. My first event out with these guys, I felt like I was part of a family. I really do now. If I stop racing for any reason, I'll still be back at these events just because I want to be around these guys. What they've done for me, racing is an escape for me, and it needs to be enjoyable. So I've talked about, I've not made that number, but I've been having so much fun this weekend to be around these guys in the pits. It doesn't matter. I can't thank those guys enough, and yeah, it's really big. Number or no number, I'm so happy to be in their family. What's that one say?
That was good. Cheers.
There you go, man. You done it twice now.
Yeah. There you go. We got you a piece of paper that says it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, careful. Yeah. That's a $100,000 piece of paper.
So I started T1 in 2005. I came from a place doing a lot of Honda drag race work. I started playing with cars in '97, worked for a couple places, and then opened T1. I had a customer that had a Turbo Integra that I tuned and built the turbo kit for, and he wasn't really getting the results he wanted at the track. He asked me to drive it one time. I mean, I'd driven cars on the street. I hadn't driven a car like that. I jumped in, went 10-1. That set a Texas record for front-wheel drive street cars way back in '06 or something. And he decided he wanted me to race the car for the rest of the season. So we did that. We made some changes, got it into the 9s, first Honda in the 9s in Texas. And then we raced it for another couple years. And you know, he owned the car and was paying for some of it. Eventually moved on, so I bought the car from him. Continued racing it. Ended up 8:32, I think, was my best time with that car. That was about 2011. And I had bought my GTR in 2010 with no intention of getting into the market. I just loved the car. So customers saw that I had one, some GTRs started coming in, and we started working on those. And you know, when I had the Integra, we built a race car, and people would want to buy some of the parts that we had on the car, but nobody was coming in saying, I want you to build me that car. And that's how the GTR stuff has gone. So we would build my car, and customers see it, and I want that, or I want to go faster, or whatever. So our racing has changed a lot over the years. In 2012, we stopped working on anything but GTR. So that's all we've worked on since 2012. And now when we come to events, it's not me and my team with my race car and my trailer. It's me and my team with a fleet of cars that we're all running around like crazy trying to maintain. But now we're out here with a family of customers, and everybody's having a great time. And it's a really great racing environment. Everybody loves coming out here, seeing everybody else do great. I mean, it's a really rewarding experience. When I was little, I was into bikes. Raced BMX bikes, started working at a bike shop. And when I got my first car, it was just the piece of shit I could afford. It was a Dodge Daytona that was a way to bring my bike other places to ride. And then in high school, some friends started getting into cars and racing, and it looked interesting, and so I started wanting to play with that. I bought a Honda Civic DX automatic because in the magazine, you know, you could do all the bolt-ons and they were going to be fast. And then I realized that the automatic Honda Civic wasn't going to be as fast as the 5-speed, no matter what you did. So then I ended up selling that, and I bought an Integra, and that's kind of where it all started, and it just went downhill from there. I do all the tuning on all the cars. Making them get down the track is my responsibility. But we've got a really great team of people that handle all the rest. We've got Terrence, Stewart, Brandon, Knox, Wade. All these guys play critical roles in maintaining these cars, building these cars, making sure that they're ready for every run. When we come out here with a gang of 5, 10, 12 cars, we've got checklists for cars, we've got a strategy, and everybody works really hard when we're out here on these weekends, and nobody skips a beat. We're out here doing what we love to do. It's rewarding because we've got these customers who've become family, and everybody's out here having a great time. So that makes it work. Another car we brought out is Michael Hurley's. He's been through a lot with this. We made a lot of changes over the past year. He hasn't been in the car in the past year. Put one of our engines in it. It's got a 4.3 liter engine. We switched the car over to Motec. It's got an ETS turbo kit with 7685 turbos on methanol. It makes about 2,350 horsepower. This car has a lot of power. It has all the right things, but it doesn't have anywhere near the weight reduction of this car. So that car is 3,900 pounds with driver. His first quarter mile pass out here, he went 7.1 at 203. So that's pretty exciting. We were all happy to see that. And looking at the data, it looks like there could potentially be a 6-second pass in this heavy car as well. Some of the other cars we've got out here, we've got Maurice's car, which is a fresh build. It's got our 3.8 liter engine set up. It's kind of halfway lightning between this and Hurley's car. It has my old turbo kit. He brought us the car to do a build. Basically wanted to build what my car was, and it was right about the time that my car was coming apart for the tube frame conversion. So it worked out good. We had a solid, proven turbo setup to put on there. We did that. His first quarter mile pass, he went 7.59 at 195. There's still quite a bit left in that car. Funny story, his only other time down a quarter mile drag strip, and his fastest time was an 11.3 in an Evo. So he went from an 11.3 to a 7.5. We've got Christine's car, George's wife. That car's had quite a few different turbo setups on it. It's got a fresh setup now with the ETS Pro 1900 setup, with the new Zona, is it 9569S. Those turbos are pretty badass. It's got our 4.1 liter engine. Motec, all of our cars have Motec ECUs. That car made 1,800 horsepower just before we left to come here. It's got more in it. I didn't want to break it just before the event. So that car went 7.6 at 180, I think it was. That car's 4,100 pounds. So it's full cage, full legit street car. It's got everything in it. And then Usier's car, he's also on 76mm turbos, but they're up front. It's not a stock location. That car is on our 3.8 liter engine, makes about 2,250 horsepower right now. Everything was good on it, so we're going to turn it up for the next pass. We'll see what it does. It's at the very least got a low 7 in it. 4 of these cars have potential to go 6s, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, so weekend wrap up. Christine's car, I think we got a valve problem or something, so we only got a couple passes in that. Went 7.6 and 7.8. George's car, the one that we've been trying to run a 6 with for a really long time. First round of eliminations, the car puts down a beautiful pass and the timers didn't work. So luckily George is religious about having his draggy in the car, and it's been pretty well documented how insanely accurate those things are. It said he ran a 686. We're gonna take it. The next pass, he had a throttle fault, but it went a tenth quicker to the 8th on a 445 than the previous 6. And then the pass after that also had a throttle fault, but they ran 442 to the 8th. Car's running great. He's put together a full pass, but it looks like it's got a 70 in it for sure, I think. Osier's car was the first one we ran a 6 with this weekend. He went 687, 207. That car was, I think, the first Nissan cast block, first on 28s, 76mm turbos. We knew it had it in it, but we didn't really expect it on that pass, so that was good. And then Maurice's car, this is a brand new build, new driver, new everything. It's got 76s on 28-inch tires, 3.8 liter. He went a 759 on Thursday, I think it was, and we were ecstatic about that. And then he goes a 7.2 and a 7.1 and a 693. Not a bad weekend for him. When he came back to the pit after he ran a 6, he gets out of the car and he's literally just crying. And you know, we all want to see each other do good, and when stuff like that happens, you know, it's just a reminder why we put in so much work, and it's really rewarding to get to see that. Michael Hurley's car, that one's been 7.6, I think was his best time prior. We weren't a part of the car at that time. We updated some things, put a Motec on it. He went 7.14. He got loose on his first elimination round and tried to recover and ended up taking out one of the cones in the middle of the track. So he only got a couple passes in, but car's healthy and everybody's happy. So had a pretty decent weekend. You have to come to this event. The track, the organization, the variety of cars, the caliber of cars. I mean, you can't just come, you have to qualify. Your car has to prove that it's fast enough to be here. Really, really great event. Really glad that we get to come out here. Our next event will probably be GTR World Cup in Florida. Shortly after that, we've got TX2K in Houston. So first quarter of next year is always going to be busy, but we'll be ready. We should have a couple new cars out there for both of those events too. We got my car back from the chassis shop. It was there for about a year, and it's kind of been sitting because we've been busy building these things. Been collecting some parts for it. I just got the turbos in. We're going to get working on that pretty soon. Start placing the turbos and get it together. I don't know that it'll be ready by World Cup or TX2K, but we'll see. I think it's a pretty sure thing that it'll be ready for this race next year for sure though. TX2K 18, I went 697 with my car, and we kind of retired that car as it was, and it's being resurrected as basically a full tube frame, but still independent rear suspension, rear wheel drive GTR. It's still GTR body, but tube frame otherwise. It's got a 7-speed Liberty transmission with a quick drive and a torque converter. I hate to throw numbers out there, but it should run a 5 when we get it all sorted. So that'll be pretty cool.